Hello everyone, Old Retired Guy here and welcome back. Starting a new project here. I found this pressure washer on the edge of a curb that somebody had thrown out. If you guys see these, pick these up. Almost always there's a pump that sits in here for running the pressure washer. People let them freeze, then they're no good and they throw it away not knowing that they've got a perfectly good motor, as is this one. And so my project here is to take this pressure washer motor, and I've built these before. I'm going to try to build it on this frame, but that might not work. My intent is to put a pulley on here, an alternator with a belt, and make a charging system for my bucket lift trailer that I built in a previous video. So it would basically keep the batteries charged up as you're working the bucket truck. So that's what we're doing with this piece. Let's see how it goes. So I wanted to let you see that it runs really well. I do have a choke problem, so the traditional have to run it on choke and will not run on an open body. So I'll have to do some work on that. I have cleaned the carburetor out. It didn't fix that problem. There is no air cleaner. I've got to build an air cleaner box. And I find sometimes the restriction of the air cleaner helps with the carburetor tuning a little bit. So I'm not really sure what kind of a problem I got. So one step at a time. But I'll show you guys that this runs really good. Well, there you go. I forgot to put it back on the choke. It'll run really good on a park. I have determined that the motor turns in this direction, which would be a counterclockwise rotation, and the alternator is a clockwise rotation. That should allow me to mount the alternator somewhere on here, maybe using this bar to pivot it on. The pulley in this direction, in this direction, will turn the alternator in the proper direction with somewhere in the neighborhood of a 24-inch plus belt, V-belt. I have to find the pulley size here, and I don't know the exact science. I'm just having fun. I don't have a dime in this. I'm just having fun. I've built these before. Didn't seem that critical to have a perfect pulley size, etc. This is a Delco Remy alternator, more than capable of charging a battery, so I don't think I'm going to have any problems there. The problem I do have is I tested this on the bench and determined that it was not a good alternator. I happen to have this on the shelf, and I took it to an AutoZone or type place, and they weren't a lot of help, believe it or not, but they let me actually use the machine, and best I could test it on their machine without having any experience on their machine, I determined the alternator is not good. Just for those curious, the way I tested it was, I put it in my vise, I put an impact gun with a socket on this nut. I ran to the positive wire on the battery, grounded the battery back to this chassis, this housing, and then put a multimeter and a voltmeter on the battery and spun it, and could not see any indication or fluctuation in the gauge or the meter to indicate that the alternator is any good, and then taking it to the AutoZone kind of proved my point. So I'm going to be into this for the price of an alternator now, and the belt and the pulley. So we continue on. All right, so we got some brackets done here. This this bracket here is going to hold the wires, just a place to wrap them up. We've got the tensioner with elongated hole. This is going to go into the alternator, and we built a bracket over here. This is going to be where the alternator swings from, pivots from, and rather than just weld the tabs right onto the frame, we welded it on its own bracket, came through the frame, bolted it through. I felt that was going to be stronger. You know, this is such thin tubing. Anyway, so we got some brackets done, and our next step is to mount up the alternator. We have the alternator mounted up now on its bracket, and the wires ran. We made these eyes out of copper pipe, and squish it down, drill a hole, make an eyelet. Got a bracket up here to hold this, and it's going to wrap. The cable will wrap around here. I'll show that in another step here. But in the meantime, I've cleaned the shaft all up from the motor, and the pulley has arrived. I went with a neck size smaller belt because I wasn't going to have the adjustment I need. And the pulley, if I put it on this way, the way I'd like to see it on, I kind of keep my Allen set screws too far out to the end. I don't like it, so that the belt would line up. So I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to put it on this way, and we'll tighten it up that way. Well, we were going to put it on that way, huh? Fit a minute ago, huh? So I'll just I want to be able to get this back off here someday. So I'm just going to put a small amount of Never Sees on here. I was going to use a socket to kind of adjust it, but I don't think I'm going to need to. I'm going to bring the belt up onto the pulley. And for now, we're going to, well, yeah, I am going to have to use a socket. Oh, not big enough. Use the socket to kind of line this up a little bit here. Got the belt in line now with the pulley on the alternator. We're going to tighten up the set screws. We'll snug one up, then the other, and then we'll go back and we'll tighten them both down. There's two set screws, one right on the keyway, one right on the shaft. Okay, now they're tight, and we'll put our adjuster bar back in place. Get too tight. The alternator's kind of, don't think we're going to have to make this real tight. So we're just going to go with that for right now. Run it a little bit and see what happens. Okay, so using the elongated hole that we built here, we seem to have the belt somewhat in order there. And the next step will be to fire up the machine. So I thought I should go back real quick and just revisit these terminals. And I might have just went over it too quickly. So I like to take and make my own terminals out of a piece of small copper pipe. And just basically putting it in the vise, squishing the end, drilling the hole, and then that would fit right on there like that. So that's, I might have breezed over that too quickly. Maybe that interests someone. And then skin the wire back, obviously, and, you know, put it in there and crimp it in the vise. And then I just like to use heat shrink to insulate it from anything it might touch. And also, when discussing this belt and pulley and the lining it up, it's so close, the distance from the alternator to the pulley, that I didn't think I could get like a straight edge in there or something. I'm sure a lot of people are saying use a straight edge to get that belt straight. It is so close and so easy to eye that up. And we're going to fire this up and in just a moment here. And I think any problems will become apparent very quickly. So it's time to fire it up. The first test we're going to do is we got a little test light here grounded to the clamps, these clamps coming from the end of these wires. And we're going to fire the motor up, and if the test light lights, that's our first clue that maybe we got something. Our next step, we'll put our meter on here. So let's see what we get. All right, well, there you go. We got something. So our next test is that our battery's reading 12.13. And we're going to fire this up and see if we get any movement on this meter here. .73. So I'm not sure what the true litmus test is on this device to see whether it works properly or not. But I'm thinking we're doing pretty good. Appreciate if in your comments you guys give me better ideas about how to check this out. But I'm pretty convinced that if I put this on my battery bank, it would begin to charge. Same system as a car, just using a small motor to power the alternator instead of the motor in your car. Also proves to me that my test on the bench of the first alternator, where I put the impact gun and spun it, put the gauge on, set it up the same way, and I saw no results, I think proved that that alternator was no good, because it's basically doing the same thing I'm doing here. So I appreciate any comments you guys could give me, somebody who's done this or somebody who understands the science better. I just like to fabricate and build things. I think this was pretty much a success, guys. Well, there you go. Thanks for watching this version of the old retired guy, I guess. Until next time, everyone, thank you.